there's a lot of judgment is a good word, but also assumption, I would say, within the beer industry when it comes to women.
Yeah.
And I feel like being in a group like this and being in a space like that, you sit down and I felt comfortable. I felt good, like in my own skin, and just like knowing that like these people around me are not going to judge me, and like we're all in this together.
Welcome to HenHouse Unruffled, an audio companion to the beers of HenHouse Brewing Company. Each episode, we'll take a deeper dive into each beer's concept, recipe, can art, sensory, and more with your hen host, Fridge.
What up? What's up, Unruffled listeners? It's Fridge, your host for the HenHouse Unruffled podcast. And today, as I record this intro, it's actually International Women's Day. I'm going to be stepping aside as host and let Annalisa Girkout take on those responsibilities. She's currently the department manager for the retail side of things here at HenHouse and the current financial liaison for the Pink Boots Society's North Bay chapter. You'll also be hearing the voices of Ashlyn Robinson and Chelsea Gregg, two awesome members of the Chicken Gang. Ashlyn is a marketing coordinator here and a member of the Pink Boots Society North Bay chapter, and Chelsea is a lab and cellar technician here at HenHouse and actually the co-chapter leader of the North Bay Pink Boots Society. They're going to be talking all about the current happenings of the Pink Boots Society's North Bay chapter and also our collaboration brew, Well Actually IPA, that we brew annually with the Pink Boots Society. Without further ado, let's get it going.
Are we drinking the beer while we're talking?
We should definitely drink the beer when we talk.
We open it now.
All right, so I'm going to just cheers over here.
Cheers.
What's up? We're drinking Well Actually. We are taking over the podcast today. All the ladies in the house. Let's start off by introducing who's here.
Yeah, my name is Ashlyn, and I am the person that essentially responds to all your comments and your messages on our social media channels. I am the help manage social media here, just helping getting you all stoked, and love talking to you guys every day, and you help me to help make our brand great. So that's me. I'm Ashlyn.
Yay.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Chelsea. I'm a lab technician at HenHouse, so I'm in the back end production. Basically, I babysit the beer, make sure that it's fermenting at the right pace, yeast management, all that fun sciencey stuff. I get to work with a microscope, and so it's a lot of fun. And I get to work with Carly, which we'll talk about later, but she's the quality manager, and she's the person who wrote the recipe for Well Actually. So, just women killing it back there. No big deal.
Awesome. And I'm Annalisa. I'm the retail department manager here at HenHouse. I've been with HenHouse for 5 years. I oversee all of the direct-to-consumer side of our operations here, our tasting room in Santa Rosa, our tasting room in Petaluma, the Palace of Barrels, and am working on our new venture, which is our West County Pub down in Fairfax, which is going to be a full restaurant as well. So lots of stuff going on. And I'm really excited because today we're talking about one of my most favorite beers ever, which is Well Actually.
So good.
This is a beer that is also a collaboration with the Pink Boots Society. I have been a member of Pink Boots for about as long as I've been in the beer industry. I joined Pink Boots before there was a North Bay chapter, basically. I just kind of signed up blindly online as okay, there's something cool that involves women in beer, and I want to get involved. But I signed up for the SF Bay Area chapter, and the meetings were so far away from me, and it's okay, am I going to go by myself and drink beer with all these women that I don't know? It was a little intimidating. But then we ended up starting a chapter, which was then called the Napa chapter, which is out in Napa in 2018. And from there, we've kind of grown it and all kinds of good stuff. So
Very cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. What was the process like, starting a new Pink Boots chapter in the North Bay?
Well, I didn't really have a whole lot of Pink Boots experience back then. So we had a couple of our chapter leaders were Sarah and Cynthia, and they came up from the San Diego area where Pink Boots is much bigger, and was really founded down in San Diego. So they had more experience and were able to kind of get the chapter going. But the first meeting was 8 of us getting together over at Stone Napa. And I signed up to be the marketing chair. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But really formed a bond with them right away, because it's finding, that needle in the haystack, finding people that are so like-minded that want to talk about the things that you want to talk about. and can really inspire, encourage each other, like in a really meaningful, like positive way. So that's kind of how it started for me, at least, and for our chapter. But I mean, I'm curious, like, how did you come to beer? How did you get into HenHouse?
Yeah, for me, like, I'll go ahead and start.
Cool.
Yeah, essentially, I got into craft beer when I moved to California. Before I lived in Nevada, and like it wasn't really, I mean, I shouldn't say now, but like back then it wasn't like a huge scene. But just moving out here and making new friends, and everyone's like, oh yeah, like we're just gonna go grab some beer after work. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to this brewery. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, what's a brewery? Like, what do you do there? Like, what are we gonna do? You know, so it's kind of like a cultural type thing, and just, you know, being really pushed by, you know, some of my friends to like do something new, you know, like get out of the tech industry and go into beer and do something fun, you know, like calm down, you know, like with all the craziness, and, you know, get into some fun. So it's just kind of just like a way of making friends and by friends. I got into it, and, you know, been here ever since. And so pretty fun stuff. Almost a year down. So
Wow.
And, yeah, and HenHouse, yeah, it's actually a little bit funny. Yeah, I came to HenHouse about 2 years ago after a birthday party at the Flamingo in Santa Rosa, but we won't really talk about that too much. But yeah, so it was after a birthday party, and we're like, oh yeah, like let's go to this place called HenHouse. And I'm like, okay, cool. And get to the tasting room, and as soon as I walk in, you know, everyone immediately is just super nice, and they're like, oh, is it your first time here? And I'm like, yes.
Love that.
What kind of beer do you like? Cold beer, nice beer. So it was definitely just like it was a really fun experience. And yeah, my friends were super cool about it, and they're like, yeah, like this is like, you know, the local spot, you know, everyone really comes here, you know, especially here in Sonoma County, and you should definitely, you know, check them out more. And so ever since like that first experience, you know, I always think, you know, like first time you meet someone, and, you know, it's a really hard-hitting type thing, you know, like first impressions are everything. And so it was really cool. So ever since then, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going to keep coming back. I'm going to be a regular. And fast forward 2 years later, it's like, oh, you're going to be helping in the marketing department, you know, like putting out content, you know, like getting everybody stoked about it. So
I love hearing that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun thing. And there are a couple people here too, you know, that started out as like just coming in, you know, drinking beer, you know, being a regular, and now they're employees here at HenHouse. So
Yep,
that just goes to show about
I'm
the
one of
brand.
them as well.
Well, that's what beer's all about, is community, you know, coming together and enjoying delicious beer.
Totally.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, mine's a similar story, except for I got started less in like my friend group, but more of one of my first jobs, which was at Whole Foods. And when I first started there, I was a cashier, and then I went into the grocery department, and then I got into the specialty department, which was beer, wine, cheese, all the good stuff. And I worked my way up to being beer and wine buyer. And I just really enjoyed learning about both worlds, both beer and wine, because they're very different. And like just getting to know a lot of my reps. And then the Whole Foods that I worked at had a tap room. And so I would often work in there, and just getting to know kind of more of people in craft beer. I really enjoyed it. But the biggest pull definitely was being a regular at HenHouse. I lived like 5 minutes away, so I would go in like every weekend. And the people that work in the tasting room are just the absolute best.
Right?
One of my first experiences was with Nikki and Shoshana. Those were like the first two. I was like, these people rock. And then like Sean and like so many people. And they just treated us like you said, like you walk in and they're like, okay, like what kind of beer do you like? And even if you're like, ooh, I don't really know, they don't care. They're just
Right.
there to be your friend
Yeah.
and to treat you well and to make you feel welcome and to give you some good beer, you know? And so once I got to know those people and the culture at HenHouse, I was like, this place seems like a place I would like to work. And once the packaging, because I started in packaging at HenHouse, once that position opened, I was like, oh, cool, I can get away from the public and be back in production and like learn more about beer and not have to deal with people. No offense to the public, but like I was in the service industry for way too long. And even in my interview, they were like, yo, like we have flight attendant, you know, beer pouring positions open. Like, we're just curious, like, why are you not applying to those? And I was like, because I literally just need to get away from people. Please put me in the back.
That's so funny. I mean, I think about the same way, you know, in my position. It's like, oh yeah, I talk to a lot of people online, but I don't actually really get to interact with people like in the physical space, which I do sometimes like miss that, but it is kind of nice just to be like, like behind.
There's a balance.
Yeah.
Like it wears on you after years. I'm just like,
oh yeah,
I really enjoy people for the most part, but service industry, as y'all know, is also very different because you're behind a counter. You have to serve these people. The whole customer is always right thing is not accurate. A lot of customers have like that going on in their head. But anyway, back to the original point. I felt very welcome in the tasting room, and I really loved it there. And then when I applied, knowing a few people within HenHouse was really helpful. And yeah, I guess that's kind of my story. And then I really loved it in packaging and wanted to kind of move on. And so there was an opportunity that arose for the lab, and I was lucky enough to get in there, and I love it.
That's awesome. I really am stoked to hear about your experiences, like coming to the tasting room, because like that is where I started at HenHouse. Like I came from the wine industry. I worked in wine for about 6 or 7 years before I came into beer, but I was always like such a big beer nerd, but like worked in wine. So definitely like gained a lot of knowledge as far as wine industry stuff goes. But then I always was like going out on my days off, like going to different breweries, traveling, going on beercations and stuff. So when I came to apply for a beer place, I was like, okay, well, where do I want to work? Like I was very picky about applying, and I found HenHouse and just totally fell in love with HenHouse. And since then have been like all in on, community as far as our tasting rooms go, like making it that place where you can come and you can feel welcome. And it's just been a really great ride. So
yeah, definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about Pink Boots. What is Pink Boots? What is Pink Boots Society? So I actually have the mission statement right here. We are here to assist, inspire, and encourage women and or non-binary individuals in the fermented alcohol beverage profession through education. So really like Pink Boots is not just beer, which is really cool. It recently has expanded to other alcoholic beverage industries. And the main goal is to educate. So there's really great scholarships that are available to our members. We meet and we do chapter meetings and stuff like that. And the chapter meetings are supposed to require an educational component. So we've done all kinds of different things like touring the brewery. We've done presentations on like beer and cheese pairings. We've done, slideshows on how to make Google work best in the beer industry. Like,
oh, wow.
There's been a lot of really, really helpful stuff. I know that Jenna, the former co-chapter leader, recently did one on like alternative hop products and stuff, which was super interesting, especially for me because I'm like, it's so out of my world as far as the beer industry goes, and to like really deep dive into these like cool new products coming up was like so interesting. So
yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It's just people coming together too, from different parts of, the alcohol and fermentation. It doesn't matter like what position you're in. Like I'm in marketing, Chelsea's in, the lab, production, like you're managing the tasting room. So I think it's kind of cool. It's like you can, like what you were talking about with like Jenna, you can benefit from different people, from, there are different ways around the brewery. So
yeah. And actually,
cool.
And like you were saying, the expansion that they've taken so that it's, distilling, winemaking, kombucha, all these other things really opens up the door to more communities within the area. Like we're in wine country,
right?
And we're surrounded by amazing craft breweries as well. But to expand that is going to be really exciting. Like I would like to learn more about distilling and winemaking and all that, but also just getting to know more women and non-binary people within those industries. Because I know a few people within the beer industry have hopped over to those industries and like vice versa. So we can all kind of yeah, exactly. So we can all help each other out,
Yeah.
So I really like that.
Absolutely. And our chapter has grown so much too. Like when we first started, we were like just this small little handful of people. And I checked our dashboard, our chapter dashboard right before we jumped on this call, and we're at 29 active members right now. So it's
we're doing
Pink Boots. Yeah. And I'm just like, I need more friends. So if y'all are out there and you want to join Pink Boots Society.
Yeah, I need more friends too. So please
Pink
join.
Boots North Bay. Like, DM us.
Yep.
Yeah, get in our DMs.
Ooh, slide in.
If you want to join, you can actually hit up the website too, pinkbootsociety.org, and there you can click join. To be a member, you do have to get like a portion of your income from the fermented alcoholic beverage industry. But go and check it out. Even if you can't be a member, there are other ways to support. You can donate to Pink Boot Society. You can donate specifically to a chapter. Hey, North Bay.
Also, if it's something that someone's thinking about and they don't want to fully commit, follow the Instagram and keep track of what events are coming up, and you can come to an event for free. You don't have to be a member, just to kind of check it out and get a feel for it, and make your decision after that. But I know you'll want to join if you come to an event, so do that first.
Come hang with us. They're so much fun.
Awesome. Speaking of hanging and having fun, we just had our Will Actually release party this past Friday, and it went off. It was so fun. Like,
Go off, girl.
Yeah.
we got to see just so many faces that I hadn't seen in so long, because starting the chapter pre-COVID, right, and then getting together more recently, it was just like all of a sudden, there was everybody, and we all hung out and drank this delicious beer and had fun. We opened up a 3-liter of Pilsner.
Yeah.
I mean,
I saw Annalisa
Nice.
popping bottles on the gram. I'm like, oh, I need to come through.
I do what I can. So, Chelsea, can you tell me a little bit more about the recipe for this beer?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, Carly, our quality lab manager, is the person who wrote it. And if I remember correctly, it was one of the first recipes that she ever made. So what she did was she based it off of, or she looked at the certified independent recipe and just kind of picked a few things out of that recipe to start with that she liked. So if you drink it, it has a nice kind of creamy mouthfeel because it has the flaked oats going on in there. So I think that was something that she pulled from there, and got some nice New Zealand hops. I think her process with the hops itself was she wanted to, at the time, obviously these are hops now that are pretty well known, but at the time they were newer to the industry, and she was like, I just want to mix and match some really fun hops that not a lot of people know about, and we'll see where it goes, where it lands. But she killed it. She did an awesome job.
For sure. I remember hanging out and talking with Carly through that whole process, and we actually did some of the hop rubbings together for these New
Nice.
Zealand
That's
hops.
so cool.
And I got to do I was like, that was the first time I'd ever done hop rubbings. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Super, super great.
Yeah.
We also had this really awesome conversation, Carly and I, about this beer and how we wanted to make an IPA, without any frills. We wanted to make a really solid beer that was made by women for everybody. So it's even on the can. A delicious beer-flavored beer made by women for everyone. Literally.
Verbatim.
Yeah. I like that it's a nice 7.2% too, right in
Hell
that
yeah.
sweet spot.
That's tall
My
can.
ideal ABV right there.
Let's go.
6 to 7%.
Women love beer. We love strong beer.
Yes.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite beers, and I get a lot of feedback, and I'm obviously someone who works in the tasting room could be better to back this up, but I've seen a lot of the hype, and when this beer comes out, everyone is excited. This is definitely a crowd pleaser. It's a crowd favorite, and I think that that's amazing. So good job,
Totally.
Carly.
Shout out
Yay.
to Carly. Woo.
People definitely do come out. I mean, even my neighbor, 3 doors down, every time I see her, she's like, you got that pink beer that you make? I'm like, it's once a year. We do try to make this beer annually, though, which is usually on International Women's Day. We happen to do it slightly earlier this year, which is really exciting because here we are podcasting on International Women's Day.
Yeah.
Whoop whoop.
Gotta represent. And we get to actually drink this beer and enjoy it, which is even
better.
more fun.
Podcast bonus.
Makes me a better podcaster too.
Right? We should start our own.
What's the feedback like on social media and stuff?
Oh man, people love it, and the number one thing people are just looking for, how can I support, and that's what we want, how can you support, how can you get the word out, how can you spread further education in beer, and just alcohol fermentation in general. So people get so stoked about it. Like I was saying before the podcast, before we started recording, one of my friends was like, hey, when can I get, well, actually, I have pink boots. I want to take a photo, and share it with you, so we can make this a big thing. And I'm like, yeah, of course, so it's things, we didn't actually tell people to do that they're doing, which is kind of cool. That's what I love to see. It's oh, people actually want to pose and take a photo with pink boots, and it's a symbol, so that's pretty awesome. So good stuff online. Loving it.
It's great. For the release party on Friday, we actually had the Girl Scouts in-house selling cookies too, and I felt it was a really great connection because it's like they can look up to these, strong women in the industry. I mean, it's beer and they're kids, so there's definitely that line. But seeing strong women taking charge, and there they are, like selling their cookies, taking charge. I think that I was just like, there we go. Well, actually, there we go.
Representation matters,
Right.
They're seeing that and they're like, oh, like I can possibly do that one day, so it's good.
Yeah, and regardless of the industry, even if it's not like all of a sudden they spark an interest and later on want to work in the beer industry, that's cool. But also just seeing strong women doing what they want to do and having that inspiration, I think, is a big deal.
Plus, I just want to eat cookies and drink beer.
Yeah, same.
Where's the Thin Mints at? We should have had that on the podcast.
They're hiding in my office for later.
We do a flight pairing, so that's kind of cool.
Yes.
It rotates weekly. So.
Right. So what's Pink Boots been doing recently? How's the chapter going, Chelsea?
Good. So I recently this year, a few months ago, became one of the chapter leaders.
Yay!
Thank you. Along with my co-chapter leader, Gabriella, who works at Pond Farm. Shout out to her. It's been going it's been going well. It's something that's very, very new to me. I've actually only been a Pink Boots member for about a year. Annalisa was the one who got me all signed up, or like convinced me to get signed up.
I do what I can.
But a little bit of my process, when Annalisa reached out to me and was like, hey, you got nominated for a leader position. Do you accept? It took me a good day to like think it over, because not that I wouldn't want to be a bigger part of this wonderful nonprofit, but taking on that responsibility is a big responsibility, and especially with something new that I've only been a part of for about a year. And with COVID, as we all know, it's been hard to like get to know people that you're like in groups that you're with or in that are newer. I've only been to a couple events because COVID. So I was a little bit on the fence about it. But I was like, you know what? I need to challenge myself, and I want to be like a voice and a face for women and non-binary people within this industry. And whether I'm nervous or feel like I don't know what I'm doing, at least like I'm going to learn with the process. I have Annalisa, I have all of these wonderful women backing me. And so I'm very glad that I had the opportunity and that I took it. With that said, we had our first meeting this year, a couple weeks ago at Pond Farm. It was a beer and cheese pairing, and it was very fun. We had about 8 members come out, and it was beautiful. We talked about, obviously it was educational, so shout out to Sarah. Thank you for sharing your cheese knowledge with us.
She is so smart. She's got her like cheese certification and all this stuff.
Yeah, she's a certified cheese professional.
And then works in beer, so the pairing is just like flawless.
I want a cheese certification. That sounds...
Like, what's up?
Yeah, it's like, how do we get one?
Like, I'm working on my cicerone over here, but cheese certification.
Cheese priorities?
It's a good combination too, beer and cheese.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was wonderful, and it really made me feel comfortable, like in the position, or like comfortable with the decision that I made, because I felt so inspired,
right,
being with these women, like, and just talking to them about, I mean, I won't, because it's their business, but I won't name any names, but like there's one woman who is starting up her own brewery. There's a woman who went to the wine industry from the beer industry. There's a woman who is taking a sensory class through UC Davis.
Oh, wow.
And like all of these women, they're just so inspiring, and to just sit there and educate each other and like bounce ideas off of each other and just listen to their lives, and also how we can better our community within our nonprofit and like reach out to other chapters. We were thinking about all becoming members of the different chapters within, the Bay Area, so that we could like be more aware of the events going on around us and vice versa.
Absolutely. I've actually made some good friends at the SF Bay Area chapter recently. I went and did a collaboration brew down in Federation Brewing in Oakland.
Cool.
I just they were like, hey, kind of last minute, but you want to come join and make some beer with us? And I'm like, yes. So I just showed up and got to meet all the the lovely folks down there and made some great connections. Met their chapter leader. Her name is Sarah, and she like travels all over. She's like a beer judge for all these different competitions.
What?
And I'm just like,
Sarah.
oh my gosh,
awesome.
like just so impressed by other humans.
Right?
I think that's like really what it's all about is
It really is.
It's
Yeah,
just
like-
getting together and
Sharing knowledge, spreading it, it's a way, especially for women, how we can grow and learn. Like we learn from each other, and there's so much, that we're left behind on certain things, but educating one another and like knowledge is power, speaking out your truth. So that's awesome.
Definitely.
yes.
And just having a safe space for it all. Like when we come together, we know that we're not being judged on our lack of knowledge in some aspect or how we present ourselves within the industry or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it can be hard. There's a lot of judgment is a good word, but also assumption, I would say, within the beer industry when it comes to women.
Yeah.
And I feel like being in a group like this and being in a space like that, you sit down and I felt comfortable. I felt good, like in my own skin. And just like knowing that like these people around me are not going to judge me and like we're all in this together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's that support, and just I can be myself here, and don't need to worry about, the judgment. So that's awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you both. And that's one of the reasons why I've really stuck with Pink Boots for the time that I've been with it. Prior to Chelsea stepping on, I was actually the co-chapter leader for 2 years. And then prior to that, I was the marketing chair. And now I'm filling in as the financial liaison. I just can't get enough. So I also, that being said, like, am just really, really excited to see like new folks joining and stepping into new roles. Like I could have kept doing the chapter leader, but I'm like, no, like it's your turn. You do this. Like I want to encourage others.
Yeah, I love it so far. And the things that we have in the works, obviously we have some ideas, nothing necessarily planned yet, but I definitely want to get like some guest speakers in. And a big goal of ours, I think this year, is obviously expanding our chapter members, but also, like I said in the beginning, with the expansion happening, I'd love to get more of those other industries and reach out to them. But also, I mean, we are in Sonoma County, and we are surrounded by so many craft breweries. So it's like, I looked at our list, and I know we'll go over this, but I looked at our list and I was like, we have so many breweries that are not represented. Like,
Right.
how do I reach out to these breweries and all these distilleries and all these wineries and try to get all of the people in our group? Because I think they would love it.
Yeah.
And I think they just need to know about it, but we're surrounded by so much potential. Like my biggest goal this year is obviously to connect and educate everyone that we currently have. But the biggest thing is to just reach out to those breweries and those wineries and those distilleries that are surrounding us that I think would really benefit from us.
For sure, right?
Yeah, it's a huge outreach thing. You know, I mean, I'd love to bounce off ideas of how we can, reach out. It'll probably take,
Social media lady over there.
I mean, on my part time, but it's just all about, going down there. I feel like within the craft beer culture, at least, but other industries too, you have to go there, and like show your face. And it's like, oh, hey, like I work here, you work there, but we have this organization, where we can connect more and spread more education and just like, be ourselves and, have fun. So
yeah, definitely.
that's just like one
representation for sure.
One of the things that I was really hoping that we could tackle, I haven't talked to you about it yet, but I'm
Live on Unruffled.
Like, what's that? So I'm super excited that festival season is back, and like festivals have been kind of notorious for not being safe spaces for women. So just getting more involved in like, maybe we have a booth at whatever
so
festival.
Tight. I'm down. Already down.
I mean, that's our outreach to breweries. That's it would be so fun too to go and participate and talk about what we do and meet everybody out there.
There's
definitely.
There might be some potential at a festival this upcoming summer where I think having a panel there would be awesome, just like a Pink Boots hour, just like campfire chat type thing, and just like going over certain things. It's just like, just on a couch, chatting, kind of like a live audience situation at said place. So
sign me up. I'm down.
So The people know who they are, but yeah, we should definitely get Pink Boots down there if there is a festival this summer, which will be, but that's all I'll say.
That sounds very
keep my
fresh.
job. Yeah. It's a pretty fresh one, so yeah.
Oh,
This
speaking
podcast
about
comes out
fresh,
Tuesday, so it's cool.
this beer is just so good.
Right?
So good.
Do you guys like high chews?
I love
Who
high
doesn't like high
chews.
chews?
Okay.
Oh my god.
So yeah, I was drinking this beer Friday. Well, actually, and like even today, I still have this pineapple high chew like flavor that I get from it, and it just makes me so happy.
I can see that.
Totally.
Pineapple high chew.
Pineapple high chew.
I'm like, wow. I mean, I was eating like spicy like ramen the first time I had it. I was like, oh, but now I still get it. I was like, oh, it's probably not the best combination, but it really sparked
It's wonderful.
that.
Definitely has that pineapple,
that fruitiness,
like pineapple
yeah.
chunk or
tropical,
like a fresh.
yeah.
Yeah, that Dole pineapple.
Yeah.
Ooh, Dole Whip floats.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's do that. Yeah. Next pin, Alex Whitehurst.
Yeah. No, it's a very well balanced beer. Very fruity. I get a lot of like floral. I got like eucalyptus going on.
Yeah.
I definitely get pineapple, but definitely lots of mango too. Mango high chew.
Ooh.
But yeah, it's delicious.
Love that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Actually,
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 this was fun. Yeah.
Right. So, anything else you guys want to talk about?
what do we feel needs to change in this industry?
Whoa.
I know that could be a heavy question, but I feel like it's necessary to talk
Yeah,
about. Like,
definitely. Yeah.
with a
where it starts.
nonprofit that deals with women and non-binary people in this industry. I think that especially if I know we are all familiar with, but if the world is familiar with the Rat Magnet Instagram handle, the lady that was bringing to the light all of these stories that were in the industry that were very heavy, that had to do with women. I think that part of our job is helping that kind of platform and bringing forth that question of what do we need to change in the industry? What do we want to see change? Because we are the people that, and it's interesting because it's like we are women, so like we shouldn't be the people that have to change the industry,
Right.
Because a lot of times we are the people who are suffering within the industry. But if we want to see change, we definitely need to bring that question forth and tell people what we want to see and what we want to see change. And obviously, like, we are going to unfortunately have to be a big part of that, which isn't unfortunate in the way of like I want to be part of the change, but it's unfortunate that those who suffer are also those that are doing the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the oppressed. Yeah,
Right.
It's like, oh. Yeah, I mean, I think, at least on my end, I mean, there's so much that needs to be changed, like everywhere, and I think the biggest thing is just the, like, assuming, like having the assumption, like, oh, I don't need to include her, in this meeting or talk about, this recipe or like this thing that's coming out, because you're a woman. Like, why should you care, But secretly you might be like a really big, beer geek or something. But even then, you don't have to be like a beer geek,
right,
to be
like regardless
in the conversation.
Yeah.
So I think it's just going forth to people who are not, like a part of, who do have like a voice, who do have the privilege to speak up and say something. It's like, oh, hey, like, I think, this person should be in this meeting. Oh, I think, this person might have like a good idea, and being that, like having those allies, in rooms and places where, we're unable to be in, So I think it starts there too. Like, yeah, like we can help, start the conversations, but it's just actually, like having, like those allies, people who can advocate for us, in situations that we're not in currently and want to be in, just to have that voice, So it's just about like creating the opportunity, taking out those assumptions of like women don't know the answers to your questions when it comes around beer. Like Pints and Panels just had like a little graphic that came out today that was just like, oh,
I love
ask women,
Right.
about beer.
Yeah.
She knows the answer. Like ask her, your beer questions, So it's just those horrible, like assumptions and just like, oh yeah, like, because I can see certain situations where it's like, oh, well, it's kind of hard, or, like the bros just being the bros,
right.
and,
Yeah. Just writing that off as like, well,
Yeah, it's just-
that's just how it is.
yeah,
And it's like, no.
it's the boy, like the boys club, sorry, but it's like, no, like you have to speak up, you have to say something. Like, yeah, it is exhausting, it is frustrating, like every time, like having to be like that person to say something when you see something, but at the same time, nothing will get done. If we don't say anything, then it's like you're being complacent. You're being the person that's like, oh, like, it's fine. I'm okay with this.
100%.
So it's like, don't stop speaking up and saying things. I know it gets hard, but, we can't, let them win.
Yeah.
Totally. I agree. And I think also part of it is like the education for the beer industry. Like, I think that breweries in general just need more education on how to deal with certain situations and to train the staff and, like you said, call things out as they happen. But like a lot of that can be prevented if there was the right kind of education for their teams to begin with, or the right kind of tone set, right? Like, you need to make sure that there's no tolerance for certain things, and you do this, you're out of here.
Yeah, set an example,
right? Right? I mean, we all try to set a good example here. Like, I expect other people to do that, and it doesn't always happen. And that's like, okay, well, here we are doing this again. Like,
Yeah, no, both good points. All good points. I think I have before, but when you were talking about like the allies and people speaking up, like that's so important because we can try to change the industry as much as we can, and we can try to educate, and we can try to put on this good example, or like be a part of all these women that are good examples. But if we're surrounded by people who don't want to change and like don't have any accountability, it's not going to go anywhere. And so definitely having people, like, it's going to be uncomfortable, y'all. Like,
of course,
we are uncomfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable.
It's like, how do you think
people out. Yeah.
it's like I have to sit in this, like you don't. Like, I have to like go home with this, and like you don't. You know? So it's like.
And within like a lot of the stories that came out, the ones that did have someone speak out for them, they were so, so thankful. And it means a lot. It means so much to have someone speak up for you, because it's just like, it's rare, unfortunately. And just to have someone like know that it's important is such a big deal. And that's what's going to change the industry. So... Yeah.
Great question, Chelsea.
Thanks. Sorry the air is heavy now. I'm so sorry.
I'm fired up. Let's go.
But it's necessary.
Yeah. Hey, it's good.
That's part of being, a leader, and part of being a woman in the beer industry right now is having to deal with these, tough situations. And let's just treat each other with respect, y'all.
So easy.
And assume that we all want to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? And not get talked over all the time.
Yeah. Ooh, mansplaining. Oh my God.
Well, actually. I don't know if y'all have seen this label, but our hen is dressed in the most fabulous pink boots. And
Annalisa has a pair like that.
I sure do. Yes. And the hen's finger is up towards the sky as a very like, well, actually.
Hold up. Yeah. Oh man. It's so good.
It's so good. Well, thanks everybody for coming out.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Right.
Stoked.
If you aren't already following us, follow Pink Boots Society North Bay on Instagram and check us out. Come join us and drink beer with us. Join our chapter. Support.
Yeah, follow, and we'll be posting some events coming up. And tell your friends to tell their friends. Tell your family members, anyone who's in the industry. Like we said, we need some friends, so please help us out.
Yeah, I mean, if you're out there in the wine industry, making cider, whatever you're doing.
We love kombucha. Come through.
Yeah, same.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to do a final cheers.
Woo. Cheers.
Cheers. Woo.
Welcome to Sensory First, where we take a deeper look into the beers, recipes, rationales, techniques, deep science, all of that good under-the-hood stuff with the beers from the HenHouse Brewing Company. I'm Bob from the marketing department, here with
Nick
and
Zach
from production, and we are getting into, well, actually, our phenomenal everyday beer brewed by ladies to be enjoyed by everybody. Whole bunch of New Zealand hops on here. I remember the first time we brewed this, I was like, what are those words after Citra? What is any of this? What does this mean? But now I'm pretty familiar with these lovely New Zealand hops. Y'all, thoughts on Carly's hop blend and how these hops are tasting this year?
It's a pretty beer, man. So what we got? We got Mataware. Am I pronouncing Mataware right?
Nobody does. Motuere is pretty good. Muteri is wrong, but I hear that a lot. But there was a specific post I read that's like, everyone's saying Muteri, you guys suck. But it's kind of more like Mutere. Like, I looked up a pronunciation online.
What language is it?
Maori, yeah.
That's what I thought. But
Yeah.
So we got that.
Mutere.
And Waiti.
Yeah.
Both really pretty delicate hops, especially the Waiti I was looking at recently. It's like very high oil and very low alpha and beta acid.
Yeah, which is weird because so many of these really cool aroma hops began their lives as super alpha hops for bittering. And then they found this other life. Also, a lot of these really cool New Zealand hops have been around forever and then got rebranded a few years ago. And everyone's like, Dr. Rudy's awesome. And you're like, were you using tons of super alpha before? Because that's what it used to be called when nobody gave a shit about it. But the brewing world has figured out these hops smell hella good and going great in this beer.
Yeah, it's so much, like, way different from the Northern American, like, pine and grapefruit and orange and like very stone fruit, melon, white wine grape I get at a lot of these.
Yeah.
it's a nice white wine grape too. Like, not to talk too much shit on Horatel Blanc because
That's where that was going.
And then even Nelson too. Can't like bad Nelson. I've talked a lot of shit about Nelson on this podcast, but
Yeah.
it's like bad white wine. This is like nice light grape. I don't know. It's more complex, I guess.
A bad Nelson is a good cat pee. I don't know. It
Yeah.
just tastes. It just smells like urine.
Yeah,
when it's really bad Nelson.
I hated on Nelson for a really long time, and then I finally got good Nelson and was like, oh, okay, I see where people were coming from. Like, it was good, and then it got really bad, and now it's starting to get good again.
Yeah, every hop is worth a refresher, and I'm talking to myself as much as anybody who might be listening. There are hops I've written off. Nelson, looking at you. Galaxy, absolutely. Amarillo, we've kind of never really been cool. But I'm going to keep coming back to these beers because both the ones that HenHouse makes with those hops and beers other people make, because maybe there's going to be a killer agricultural year with that hop where it's going to be like Bob's favorite hop that I'll be like chasing down everywhere. Wakatu, I'm looking at you, still the apple of my eye. And maybe like someone's going to do the right recipe, or maybe the first recipe I had with that hop sucked.
I think that's a lot of it too. Like, I mean, we've reached a point where hops are on can labels and even on draft boards, which is super tight because I don't think that was happening before. But still, like 3 words on a label isn't telling you the whole story. And some hops are supportive hops, and they're not meant to be like the stars of the show.
I'm gonna post my controversial hot take. I don't really like Mosaic.
The hottest take I have ever heard, both as part of the HenHouse broadcasting team or with all the podcasts I consume. That is the hottest take of my life, right there.
That one's spicy. This was going to put us on the chart.
Yeah.
But there's so much like biotransformation and like different uses for these hops. So even not hitting the right, I mean, obviously going for the correct aroma or like timing of your additions or selecting for the specific aromas and flavors that you're looking for doesn't necessarily add up to the whole of your malt bill and your fermentation temperature and just what kind of yeast you left in the beer before it biotransforms and just makes different compounds than you had originally intended.
Yeah.
Sorry, green pepper Mosaic.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time talking about green pepper when we were brewing fresh pots last time. I am fascinated with that green pepper molecule and where it might come from and how I can keep it away from me. Great for tacos, not my beer.
I mean, green pepper is the worst of the peppers. Like, green bell pepper is trash. Like, give me the red, the orange. I'll deal with some yellow. Don't put green in my shit.
Yeah, nobody likes you, green pepper. Stay the heck out of all of our beers and probably Nick's fajitas as well. We increased the 2-row a little bit here over last time. Not a whole heaping amount, but when we're seeing these little drifts in the grist, what's that telling me? We were short bags that week, or we're like, maybe we can have a little more 2-row in here. Maybe like that last batch, a little too fluffy. Let's tone down the oats.
Our recipe calculator was created by Shane 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was started with the original, like, I don't know, the first 3 conspiracy theories and Oyster Stout and Saison and Honest Day's Work and beers like that. And it's real general, and it was at the beginning of our brew house, which has changed so much since then.
Yeah, we've added a whole other vessel, among other things.
It's kind of just been for a long time. No one had the bandwidth to really, like, dig deep into them, and, like, we weren't messing with brewhouse efficiency or like anything beyond just replacing malts and hops.
Right.
It's kind of like every beer is going to brew the same, and that's not how that works.
Yeah.
So recently, we've started digging into our recipes more, and for multiple reasons, trying to increase efficiencies and just get accurate representation of how our recipes work on our brew house. So you'll see a lot of just minor tweaks to more two-row, things like that in the future.
Yeah. God, that's awesome. That is the most fascinating answer.
I think this is also one of the recipes that originally had way too much wheat in it. And after some trials, we figured out that 15% wheat is really all you need. Anything more than that is the same. It's just more likely to stick the mash. So that wheat's probably come down since the beginning as well.
Cool. God, that is super fascinating on my end. We got Conan in here doing its biotransformation dance that we appreciate it for so much. Anything else you guys want to add?
This is a good beer. I think it's a fan favorite. I hear a lot.
Definitely.
You guys coming back with that pink beer.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost one of those catch-22s where a collab beer becomes like a favorite, and we wish we could do it all the time, but we can't.
Cool.
I tried to take this home in advance to analyze it a little better, and then I just packed a bunch away because it was easier to drink than to think about. So this beer is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, that is the best type of analysis. Sarah was just quoting Brian Hunt in another episode we recorded where a bunch of homebrewers were asking Brian Hunt of Moonlight what the most important tool in the brew house is, and he said the tasting glass. And that is it. You did take it home and you analyzed it and you found it to be good. What else is there? All the rest is kind of window dressing around having a really great beer experience.
I also want to point out that this is the only recipe with Carly's name on it. I think almost every recipe that I write, she helps me with, but she refuses to take credit, and she also refuses to write any more recipes. So if you do enjoy this beer, find her on the internet and harass her and get her to write more recipes.
Yeah. I'm completely here for that. We got a really fun bunch of different folks writing recipes, and that's part of what makes our infinite number of rotating beers we put out every week so fun, is you get a little bit of different folks' personalities written in there. I love it. Cheers, y'all.
HenHouse Unruffled was created by Anna Scott. We record at HenHouse Brewing Company's Palace of Barrels in Petaluma, California. Our producer is Brian Henderson, and our associate producers are Josh Staples and Fridge. The music you've been listening to was written and performed by our San Francisco account rep McLean from his album Speechless and Speechless 2, which you can find on Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, and anywhere one finds dope music. If you have a question or comment about this or any episode of HenHouse Unruffled, please let us know by calling 707-347-9425 to leave a message. You can also send an email to podcast@henhousebrewing.com. For more information, visit www.henhousebrewing.com or stop by one of our Bay Area tasting rooms. The voice you've been listening to is Imani Russell Black. Please listen and drink responsibly.